I don't know. It's up to
Just
Knicks Pacers.
Knicks Pacers. It
Please.
is.
It's the freshest on our minds.
It's the best one.
2 games have happened since we recorded.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pacers took game 2, felt stylistically and like how the game, not entirely how the game played out, but it felt fairly similar to game 1 in a lot of ways, minus the massive comeback from Andrew Nimhard. Or not Andrew Nimhard, Neesmith, sorry, with all of his threes and the Pacers in general. But I really more want to talk about game 3 because that's the most recent game. Unless you have any big things you want to say about game 2.
I do. The game starts the exact same way the first game starts.
Pascal Siakam was phenomenal.
Pascal
I apologize.
Siakam has 39, but the Pacers just come out and make everything
Yeah.
to start the game. Then they slow up the rest of the first quarter, and the first quarter ends 26-24. Knicks up by 2, so you're thinking, okay, we're about to have a game that's going to play out in the Knicks' pace, and it's going to slow down and everything. But Siakam continued to cook. He ends up with 39, as I said. McConnell gets the double digits again, which was something I had brought up after the game 1 was this can't be happening kind of thing. He did it again in game 3. And then Brunson has another electric game, scores 36. And Towns and Bridges both go for 20. The big story of the game, though, was Knicks again play just 7 guys. They get 10 minutes out of Cameron Payne as the 8th. And down the stretch, they're tired, they're slow, they're not good defensively from an effort standpoint. And the Pacers are able to, again, win, and they were, at that point, 7-0 in clutch games in the postseason, which by itself is an insane stat, just to be 7-0 in clutch games. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it from an NFL perspective, 7-0 in one-score games. Like, that is something that, like, law of averages says that's going to turn around at some point. But, like, just from a baseline, that's insane. Then you think about the comebacks that they had, 3 8-point, 7-point comebacks in less than a minute and a half, less than a minute, and one of the standpoints. Just absolutely insane what the kind of run they had been on. And they take game 2 and took control coming back to Indiana.
Sure.
Jack.
Yeah, they come back to Indiana, and I think why I wanted to get to game 3 is because it's where I feel like the Knicks adjusted. I think they came to the realization after game 1 and 2, talking about them being tired at the end of both games. They said, whether we want to or not, we have to play more guys. And so they played 9 guys tonight. Landry Shaman and DeLon Wright both got minutes, and they hadn't played so far in the series, I don't believe.
DeLon Wright played 26 seconds in game 1 at the end of the first half, so
Okay.
Brunson didn't pick up a 4th foul.
So, but largely these were their first big real minutes. I thought DeLon Wright especially played pretty well. And then you got your Miles McBride minutes, and Mitchell Robinson started in this game as well. So I really think the Knicks after game 2 were like, we have to make some big changes if we're gonna win this series, and they did. They came out and did it. Especially from a defensive effort standpoint, late in the 4th. It paid off in huge dividends, as well as another adjustment they made down the 4th. I'm not positive if this was intentional from Thibs or if it was foul trouble stuff, but they didn't really put Cat and Brunson on the floor at the same time very much at all in the 4th, which is big because you just let either Cat or Brunson create, and then you just let everyone else fill out the defense around them and, secondary scores around them. When Cat and Brunson are both on the floor, it's a lot harder for the Knicks defense to get stops.
Against this version
Of the
against this
Pacers.
team,
Yes, yeah. Against the Pacers, because the Pacers are so fast and have different scoring options and have multiple guys that can hunt the mismatch, and the fact that Miles Turner can pick and pop, which he took a lot of ill-advised threes in the 4th quarter, in my opinion. Another big story is Cat scores 20 in the 4th in this game. After an abysmal start to this game, people were calling him soft on Twitter. Kitty Cat. People were saying you're not Big Purr, you're Kitty Cat. Well, Big Purr came out to play in the 4th, a huge 20-piece to close the gap because they were down 20 late in the first half, and then 13 at half, which I think was actually the broadcast said it multiple times. So I guess it's not an underrated aspect of this game, but the fact that they managed to close the gap a little bit going into halftime. But yeah, I think the adjustments pregame for the Knicks are really the biggest highlight here. What do you got, JP?
For me, I think that's a great point. For me, it felt like the way they played that game was just really good. Playing through the punches.
Yeah.
You go down 20, like it would be very easy to roll over and give up. But think about the Knicks so far in this postseason. The last 4 road games, a 20-point comeback against the Boston Celtics, a 20-point comeback against the Boston Celtics, get blown out by 25 against the Celtics, and then another 20-point comeback against the Indiana Pacers.
It's what they do.
And they are a team, they don't give up, just like Indiana. They are not afraid to come from behind, and they can turn up their defensive intensity when they need to. And like Jack said, the adjustment of playing 2 extra guys in DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet was massive for them. It allowed them to be fresh down the stretch in the game. From a minutes perspective, Mikal Bridges plays 45 in Game 2. He plays 37 in Game 1 or Game 3. OG played 36 and 37 in the 2 games, so not a big change for him. But for like Jalen Brunson, he plays 39 minutes versus 31, and even he was able to get to his spots late down the stretch without tired legs. That was an impressive effort, especially in the fourth quarter. They beat the Pacers by 16 in the fourth quarter to win this game going away. Karl-Anthony Towns was electric. Van Gundy was making big points about, like, you were saying now with Miles Turner that he was taking some ill-advised threes. Van Gundy on the broadcast was saying Karl-Anthony Towns was taking ill-advised threes. For me, I completely disagree.
It was clear he was feeling it.
Yes, he was hot. He had it going for sure. And just the scenario of the game, they were up, like they were leading by 1 each of those threes. And in those spots, like when you're in the lead and you're on the road and you're trailing in the series, you're looking to grab control of momentum and really try to take the life out of the crowd and take the life out of the Pacers. And Karl-Anthony Towns was trying to do that. And he goes 1 for 3 in those threes, hits the big one to push the lead to 4, which he probably could have got an and 1 on. But he was electric. And then for Jalen Brunson to play, let me pull it up here. He plays, I believe, 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. He picks up the early foul, which was I disagreed with the call. I felt like he was in a defensive position the entire way, and then I guess there has to be a call, but I would have gone with an offensive foul or no call there.
I would have got no call personally.
He picks up the foul, and then he sits for 9 minutes of game time or 10 minutes of game time in like half an hour of real time. And then he comes straight up on the floor and hits a big shot to regain the lead, and he was just hits the free throws late.
Clutch.
So much credit to him, because the story could have been after, like, if he doesn't come back in the game, or he comes back in the game and misses 2 shots, immediately the story changes from Jalen Brunson, this super clutch player, to Jalen Brunson, we couldn't even play him in the fourth quarter because he's not good enough defensively and he can't hit the big shots, and the Pacers are just more clutch. That was, for me, the NBA is so much about narratives, and the narratives in a game of basketball can change dramatically in a matter of seconds, in a matter of minutes. We saw that in Game 1. Knicks are up by 16 with 6 minutes left, or 5.5. And the storyline after the game would have been, okay, Knicks control the Pacers, win Game 1. They look like the better team. They're more healthy than they were last year. They should be able to control this series the rest of the way. Boom. Pacers take Game 1. They steal it. Boom. They steal Game 2. And here we are, Knicks in a spot where they could go down 0-3 in their first ever conference finals since 1999. And they don't even get to go back to the Garden again.
Yeah.
And the Pacers take it from them again. And boom, Brunson, after sitting there for 30 minutes, comes in, hits 2 big shots, and knocks down his free throws, and the Knicks win. So much credit to Jalen Brunson. Shout out, he's here in the flesh, actually.
Yeah.
His uniform. That's
being repped on stream.
That was a game worn in Game 1, by the way. Not at all.
That's from tonight's game, actually.
Yeah. Well, they wore blue tonight.
No, it's from tonight. He was wearing it under his blue jersey.
I've been
That's
accused.
a good way to make money right there. Have NBA players wear 2 jerseys a game to sell them.
Yeah. I was accused pre-show that this is foul baiting corner.
In jest.
But I, in my opinion, think it's clutch corner. I think
you would have a Halliburton jersey there if it was clutch corner.
True.
Sure.
Acuna does fit the clutch narrative, though.
Correct.
I do like that.
I agree.
That piece.
Shout out Acuna, welcome back. But it's the narrative completely changes, and the credit has to go to Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, and Shemet from the TikTok as well. I thought he had great minutes in those 11 minutes that he played. Yeah, Pacers, they lose this one, but like I'm going to say it now, and I'll say it again in the Thunder Timberwolves. This was just a game of desperation.
Yeah.
This is kind of the story of how the NBA playoffs work pretty much every year. If a team has a pulse at all, like is good in any way, shape, or form, they, when are put under the light bulb and their season is on the line, they're going to respond and win that game the first time, like 90% of the time.
We've seen it happen to Indiana 3 times these playoffs.
Correct.
They've lost game 3 all 3 times after being up 2-0.
And so this was just another desperation, down 2-0, can't go down 3-0, and they were able to just take game 3, and now they're in a spot. Game 4, if they can pull that off, which they have proved that they are more than capable of doing that.
They love the road.
6-1 in the playoffs on the road this season. Knicks. Here we go.
Yeah, I like the narratives piece to kind of start wrapping up this segment on this series. Because also you're starting to see things like, Pacers win this series, like, man, they're hot, they can't be stopped, team of destiny. I started seeing people like, man, this is like really the team that's going to beat the Thunder and stuff like that. And now it's like, man, did the Pacers look a little tight, in that fourth quarter? Like, they looked a little lackadaisical when they got up 20. They took the foot off the gas, stuff like that. Some, knee-jerk overreactions, in my opinion, largely. But it really is just a sport of narratives. I want to just finish going back to the Knicks defense. Holding this Pacers team to 100 points is huge. Pacers hit 5 threes in this game, which I don't expect them to hit that low of, a number in the series again. But I do think a large part of it was to the Knicks defense. I think from a non-knowledgeable guy, it looked to me like they were doing a lot of taking away the 3 and forcing Indiana to drive. And Indiana, especially in that fourth quarter, did not want to go strong to the rim. They kept just kicking it right back out to a shooter that the Knicks would then just close right on fast again, and they'd swing it again, and then you get a tough 3 or a tough fadeaway from a player or a little push shot from Nesmith. It just
Who was the dude that had the 2 threes late in the game?
Miles Turner
Yes.
put up a couple tough ones, which I don't agree with those takes, but they weren't. It was the first time all playoffs. It was like, man, the Pacers were really struggling to generate good looks. And I think they just needed to attack the rim a little stronger, which is not necessarily their strong suit as a team. But even I remember one play vividly, and it's Nesmith beats his guy into the paint, and he could just easily put up a little floater or even just stop and hit a little midi jumper. And instead he takes it in a little closer and then just kicks it out to the corner. And it's like, okay, we're just back at square one based on this offensive possession because the Knicks are right there to close because it's almost like they were ready for the kick out.
Yeah, the Knicks' rotations defensively
were fantastic.
Yes, fantastic. That would be the film you would show if you were trying to teach how you want your defense to rotate in a man-to-man situation. Again, from like an Indiana perspective, it's another thing that kind of frustrates me about Tyrese Halliburton and some of these Pacers as well is, and part of it's philosophy-based, but there are so many spots where like you need to go out there and be aggressive yourself, and specifically Tyrese. There were 2 moments. One specifically, I can remember he gets it on a fast break, and he has Karl Anthony Towns with 5 fouls in front of him. There's like 3 minutes left, 1-on-1, and he pulls it out and swings it.
He's a big fan of the pull out.
Yeah, he pulls it out. Wow. Pulls it out to the wing, swings it to Nesmith, and then Nesmith swung it to Miles Turner, I believe, and Miles Turner makes a 3. Now, it worked out for them, but that's a spot where, like, Karl Anthony Towns has 5 fouls.
Just go right at him.
And the way the refs have been calling the game, go right at him and draw that 6th foul and take him out of the game, especially with the fourth quarter he was having. And then down the stretch, again, just settling, shooting too many threes in spots where you don't need to, not taking advantage of the size matchup that you had. When you got the switches, you were not capable of getting the ball to the big man and getting the easy looks. Yeah. You instead took your looks against the other switch with where you had the big man guarding you. It was frustrating from a Pacers perspective. you in the second half score 42 points for the Pacers is kind of unacceptable, regardless if you were shooting bad or whatnot. With the pace that you play at, like 48 or 42 points should be impossible, unless you were just shooting at an all-time low, especially in a game where you got to the foul line 33 times. I thought that was also a big storyline was the foul line. Pacers missed 3 free throws in the second half to the Knicks 1. And that's kind of it was my ninth grade freshman basketball coach. That was his big MO, and he'd say it every single practice, every single game. Layups and free throws win and lose you games in the NBA and basketball in general. Layups and free throws. Missing free throws and missing layups or missing easy points. And that can always be the difference in the game. And it was here. Like, yeah, the Pacers only missed 3 free throws in the second half, but they're 3 important free throws when the Knicks are down 13 coming into the second half. It's a difference between 16 and 13. So just poor execution, poor shot selection for the Pacers. And part of that is, for me, celebrate defense, credit to the Knicks. They were outstanding. But the Pacers missed some spots where they really could have taken advantage of the Knicks.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when T.J. McConnell looked like your most aggressive and assertive player out there, which, shout out T.J. McConnell, it's kind of what he does. He comes into these games. And,
triple digits, all 3.
Yeah, it gives some good minutes, but it's still not a good sign when that's the case, when he's the only one that really is getting good paint touches and such. And not just getting paint touches, but being very decisive and knowing what he's going to do when he gets there. Not exactly what you want from the Pacers. Move on to the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, I guess we predict Game 5, though,
Sure.
since that'll be played before, or Game 4 before we record on Wednesday, and then we'll record after Game 5. No, we won't record after Game 5. So, yeah, let's talk about Game 4.
Sanders, who you got Game 4?
Pacers.
Also, the Pacers, I don't think they'll lose back-to-back at home.
I got the Knicks. I think the Knicks get it done in Indiana again. I thought that for them, it felt like they played poor in this game while they had an electric fourth quarter. It wasn't necessarily that they played poor. It was just the foul trouble puts them in a spot where they can't be productive with Jalen Brunson, and Karl Anthony Towns can't be productive until the fourth quarter. And if they can avoid that, which
they have in all series.
Yeah, they have in all series, and it was also a problem in the Celtics series as well. But if they were able to avoid it, then they're going to be, I think they'll be in a spot where this can be like the level of play throughout an entire game. That's kind of been a problem for the Knicks this postseason is they, with their 5 guys, their 5 or 6 guys that are really good, they don't get the like really good stretches of minutes from them because they get in the foul trouble and they get subbed out. And now you have an offense with only 4 guys that can really create their own shot, or 3 guys, or you're in a spot where they literally played minutes where it was Miles McBride, Josh Hart, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, and Mitchell Robinson. Miles McBride is your number 1 option on the floor in a postseason game in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's a story of the foul trouble, and that's a story of the lack of rest that some of these players are getting. And, yeah, that can't happen. So if the Knicks are able to avoid that and avoid spots like that, which Miles McBride was electric. He scores 7 points in those minutes.
Yeah.
But
he's a good player.
If they can avoid that, I think they're in a great spot. They, for one, have to feel all the confidence in the world playing on the road at 6-1. And the only game you lost was a game of desperation, like I talked about, 3-1 against the Celtics. So I think the Knicks get it done in Game 4, and we go back to the Garden in Game 5, and it is going to be electric on Thursday night.
I saw a take that the Garden isn't the home court advantage that people think it is.
Definitely not.
Let me finish my take. Not my take, the take I saw. Because everyone's looking to have their Kodak moment in the Garden.
I think for some people it can be.
Like LeBron, for example, always performs in the Garden, which, I mean, that's unfair because that's, the best basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
But, that's just like a take I saw. I thought that was interesting.
I think for some it can be too much. We've definitely seen that before where it's really kind of just too much. But for a lot, it is, like you said, it is their moment to shine. It's the grandest stage of them all. And we've seen that time and time again throughout NBA history. Think of, every every player's big moments have come in the Garden, regular season or post. Michael Jordan, Reggie Miller, Steph Curry scores 60 points in the Garden, and then recently we've seen Trae Young and the Pacers and the Knicks have all played well in the Garden, and even Cade Cunningham had some good moments in the Garden in this postseason.
I agree. It's a player-to-player basis.
Yeah, it's the grandest stage of them all, and everyone wants to play their best there. And it's not necessarily the kind of home court advantage the Knicks would hope for. I feel like it definitely eats at them a little bit because the crowd, you can feel the emotion.
You got
of the
pressure
crowd.
to perform under a crowd like that.
So much emotion. They're ready to pop with every single made shot, and when you miss, it kind of takes the crowd a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, see.
I was gonna say one other thing.
Yeah.
I told Jack it's kind of crazy how as good and as close as the games have been, we were very close to having a not good series on our hands. Not in the games have been close, but it was almost 3-0, which would have been an unfortunate place to be given how good the games have been. To be like, wow, well, we're only going to get 4, maybe 5 of these games. So as much as I want the Pacers to win, I am glad the Knicks got the game tonight, just to kind of give us more basketball, hopefully.
Sure. From a casual perspective, I completely understand it. I have really enjoyed the series. Even if
it's
the
been
Pacers won
fantastic.
tonight. And for me, the narratives are such a big part of it that, like, the narrative of a sweep is massive. And for me, that holds just as much impact as if it went 7 games and a team were able to win it or not. But I completely understand it from the casual perspective, not getting to see as many games as you'd
and also
you'd hope
not
for.
getting the intensity of Game 6 and Game 7 oh my gosh, this is insane.
I think the only spot that really kind of eats at me is just the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I like seeing not 5.
I mean, that's the end.
6-7 games of that because there's so much anticipation and highs and lows because you have the 2 days off in between games. So you have a night, 2 days, or 3 nights and 2 days. Actually, 3 days and 3 nights to think about what Game 1 was and what Game 2 is going to be between the two. You have the night after the game ends, and then you have the day of the game, and you have the 2 nights as well. And you have so much time to think about everything that, if missing out on an extra game or two which becomes an extra 3 days, 3 nights of that's where it eats at me. But for this, I don't really have a care
Fair.
for that.